Okay, just a video on factorising using difference of two squares. Right, starting off with this one here, really just going to try and highlight a few things because this is quite commonly factorised incorrectly. So, difference of two squares is exactly what it says in the tin. It's one thing squared to take away something else squared. That's what difference of two squares, if you find the difference between two things you take away. And when we're trying to identify that it's going to be a difference of two squares factorising question, really what you're looking for is square terms. So that's things like we've got x squared, in that example there we've got y squared, so squared terms, and you're looking for square numbers as well. So if you need a wee refresh on square numbers, we just get them by multiplying a number by itself. So 1 times 1 is 1 squared, so and that's 1, so 1's a square number. 2 times 2, that's 2 squared. That's 4, 4's a square number. 3 times 3 is 3 squared, that's 9, so 9's a square number. Again, 4 times 4 equals 4 squared, which is 16. So on and so forth. So, like I said, we're looking for square terms, x squared, y squared, but we're looking for square numbers as well. Now, if I look at this first expression here that I'm going to factorise, I have all of that, okay? 4 is a square number, 1 square number, x squared is a square term, and we're taking away. So this does actually fit the bill for difference of two squares, although it may not seem that way when you look at it at a glance. So let's write it out. Nice and obvious as one thing squared, take away another thing squared. Right, so 4x squared, I could write that out as 2x all squared. If I squared everything inside that bracket, 2 squared is 4, x squared is x squared, I would get back to that 4x squared. So that's one thing squared, take away, and I can actually write 1 out as 1 squared. So it's maybe nice and obvious now that I've got one thing squared, take away another thing squared, so that's difference of two squares. So we can go to double brackets from here. First thing squared is the first thing in each bracket. Second thing squared is the second thing in each bracket, and that order is important. Plus and minus, it doesn't matter if you do the minus and then the plus, as long as you've got that difference of signs in each bracket. Now, the good thing about factorising is we can check it, okay? When you factorise, you never ever change away from the original expression. So if I multiply out these brackets, which I'll do just now, I should get back to 4x squared minus 1. So let's just check that. The first thing in the first bracket times the second bracket, second thing times the second bracket, i.e. everything in the first bracket multiplying the second bracket. So I'm going to get 4x squared minus 2x, add on 2x minus 1. Okay, when you're multiplying out brackets and you've factorised using difference of two squares, what you'll find is that the middle terms will cancel each other out. So that will always become 0. So, negative 2x add 2x is 0. And you can see that we get back to what we had when we started. Okay, so we know that's correct. Let's look at this one. So this one is a wee bit more complicated. Again, we're looking for squared terms. We've got that x squared, squared term, y squared, squared term. And we're looking for square numbers. And again, I've got that 9's a square number, and so is 16. And just so you know, this list obviously goes on. So the next square number would be 5 times 5 is 5 squared, is 25, so on and so forth. We've got that take away, which means it has a difference. We're taking away, take away to find a difference. So it does fit the bill for difference of two squares, but we just need to write it out in a format that makes it very obvious that it's one thing squared, take away another thing squared. So 9 squared we can easily write out as 3x all squared. Again, if you square 3, I get 9. If I square x, I get x squared. So if I square out that bracket, I get back to 9x squared. And again, second bracket, we can write that as 4y all squared. Again, if I squared out that bracket, I would get 4 squared is 16. Y squared is y, so I'd get 16y squared. Right then, so it's now a bit more obvious that I've got one thing squared, take away another thing squared, so we can go to double brackets. The first thing squared is the first thing in each bracket. The second thing squared is the second thing in each bracket, and then just a plus and a minus. Okay, and like I said, you can do it as a minus plus as long as the signs in the bracket are different. And again, what I could do is I could multiply that out, and I will get back to 9x squared take away 16y squared. Okay.